longtime South Fayetteville resident that you may know from his service on a number of City of Fayetteville or community organization boards or committees, or you may know him from the thousands of photographs of native flowers and insects posted online, accompanied by genus and species identification. Here's Aubrey Shepherd. Aubrey Shepherd, welcome to Fayetteville Focus, and thanks for coming into KPSQ Studio. I want to visit with you today about your work here in Fayetteville, and I'd like to start by talking about how you got here. Where did you grow up, Aubrey?
Oh, I grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, after being born in Ruston, Louisiana, in 1940.
And what was that like? What was childhood like down there in Louisiana?
Well, it was a lot warmer than it is today in Fayetteville, but it was all about going barefoot and having to wear shoes when you went to school, but maybe being barefoot all summer except Sunday school.
So were you an outdoor kid?
Oh yes, and my father and grandfather and others were outdoor folks. You know, they hunted and fished, and I know I had one uncle who trapped and critters out in the wild and kept strings out to catch fish while he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Come by a place and say, I got a line out right out there. You know? And so, yes, outdoors was very important to me growing up.
Well, I know, Aubrey, that you ended up in institutions of higher education for many years, but how did you get there? What was between your childhood and the time that you were pursuing advanced degrees?
Well, I was a pretty bad student when I got into high school because I didn't want to read as slowly as the rest of the class. And some of the people who read maybe better than I did, though, probably paid attention to every word. But I remember one teacher just thought I was terrible because I wouldn't know the place. You'd have people reading aloud in an English class, and I would have read several pages ahead and wouldn't know where the place was.
Yeah.
And
so you were a reader, too.
Yes, I grew up with plenty of opportunity to read. I think my grandmother had friends who brought me the best magazines when I was a small child. You know, the ones that were in Vogue then.
Yeah.
And it was a Vogue magazine then that those ladies looked at, but I mean, it was the good stuff. So I had an opportunity to read a lot.
Yeah.
And when we had a polio scare, I spent a whole summer not getting to play outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a strange year that changed everything for me for a while.
In what ways?
Well, you know, not getting to play outdoors, I ate too much and got fat instead of a really skinny kid. And so I missed some things, but I also got ahead. I remember being a stand up for somebody who was being bullied after I gained that weight.
Yeah.
So when 7th graders stay away from us 6th graders and don't pick on any of these, you know.
Yeah.
So I learned, and part of that you learn from cowboy movies, believe it or not. You know, how the cowboys always stood up, you know, the good cowboy, so you learned the right principles from those old cowboy shows in many ways back then.
Sounds like you learned that brawn wins. If you're big enough, you can you can have your way.
Or at least had the nerve to stand up to the bullies.
Self-confidence.
Yeah.
Well, I know you ended up then in English as an academic, and I assume that was influenced by all that reading.
It really was. After the first year I taught at Delta State College, came back to Bear Park High School in Shreveport, and went in the class of this lady who almost flunked me.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and said, well, little Shepherd, what are you doing now? And I said, well, I teach English at Delta State College in Mississippi. And she was flabbergasted. She really was, because she had never noticed that I was paying attention.
Yeah.
But just reading a little ahead.
Yeah.
And she didn't admire that, because she had a way she taught.
Yes.
And that meant not being as interesting.
Well, you had, I believe, mixed in with your academic work, you were in the Coast Guard reserves for a number of years.
8 years, and I enjoyed that because it took me to sea.
Yeah.
And different parts of the United States, everything but the Great Lakes, where you could get to water, I guess.
Yeah.
Every state that was a major port city. And so that came at the time of the Vietnam War started several years after I went into service.
So while you were a part of the Coast Guard.
Yeah, I was the Vietnam War. We never heard the word Vietnam, I don't believe, before it finally broke out, And so I was not sent into action overseas. That was the difference in my life. Because how many thousand died in the Vietnam War, and it was just untenable.
Yeah.
They couldn't have won it. We couldn't win it, just as we can't win these wars that we get involved in these days. So that was a period of learning a lot, and being fortunate to be, done with it. It was a great experience. I'm sorry for the people who don't make it home.
Yeah. Or came home scarred.
Very scarred. And that's still happening.
Well, Aubrey, what brought you to Northwest Arkansas? How did you end up here?
Well, that takes me back to teaching at Delta State. The second college I taught at was at Tahlequah. And I taught there 2 years, and came to Arkansas for graduate school for working on a PhD program that I never finished, really. But I really liked Fayetteville, like millions seem to. I don't know how many of us it'll have to be before they shut the doors on people coming to Fayetteville, because everybody loves it.
So when was that you came to?
Well,
came to the University of Arkansas.
Yeah, well, I came full time, I guess, in '66, I believe. And 64, 67, whatever.
Yeah.
And
mid-60s. That's close enough.
Yeah, that's right. And so the reality for me was that Fayetteville was like home in so many ways. It was, and I can't tell you all those ways. I think
the Fayetteville area certainly has its opportunities outside, opportunities interacting with nature.
Right.
And you have continued to do that in Arkansas.
Yes. I hunted, fished, bird watched, photographed every kind of flower that I can find that's wild and try to determine what species it is. And sometimes it gets redundant every year. They're almost the same ones or in almost the same places on these prairie areas. So the prairies are rapidly being wiped out by the coming construction that people choose to red dirt, the topsoil, actually dig out this wonderful absorbent soil. And when they do that, they leave a really sad situation, because not only does the water no longer enter the ground where it naturally has, and you don't have the native plants growing anymore, and you have a lot of runoff to our streams and through other people's property. One of the things I've been involved in just this fall and winter is the project at what I call Pinnacle Prairie. It's Pinnacle Foods Incorporation land near my home in South Fayetteville. And that prairie land has all the native plants that it had before, people were building Fayetteville. And it's right here in town. But they're expanding their factory, and Pinnacle Foods makes many things. It's a wonderful source of jobs for friends in Fayetteville. But I'm trying to modify one little thing in their latest project, and it has to do with that soil. And a way to protect downstream property that I see can also protect the native things growing there and allow that water to be absorbed and flow gently underground. That's an important project, and I'm not sure that the engineers doing the planning will do it as I wish exactly.
Yeah.
Because every acre, every 10 feet, every inch is important to me in the land, right?
Yeah.
And we do have more dangerous flooding in the city if they could allow the water to continue to soak in the wild plants to grow there, the native wildflowers and the birds.
Aubrey, I have to confess to being a little bit intimidated interviewing you, having come to realize that you're an old radio pro. Tell me about your radio days. That was in Northwest Arkansas, too.
Well, I certainly was not a pro, but I had the privilege of doing outdoor shows, primarily environmental things, on multiple radio stations in Northwest Arkansas. And this was back in the 60s, and it went into the 70s, I guess. But it required a little different situation than you have here with this wonderful modern studio, because I would have to go to one studio and then get a copy of what we'd done and take it to the next studio up the highway to actually make a living off of this process, a living of sorts at least. And I would start with one of the Fayetteville stations, and then go on to a Springdale station, and there were 2 Rogers stations, and I think it was up to some small towns pick those things up too. So I might take them copies or send them to them.
Yeah.
Different things. And so it was, radio was, you know, a lot bigger than TV at that time.
Yeah.
And so it took a while to, you know, get involved with television, but I still love radio because you don't have an accident driving down the street because you're listening to the radio.
You're listening to the radio, yeah. So you were talking about hunting and fishing,
yeah, and it wasn't just that, because the environment was the key thing. The fact that people wanted to eat fish and animals of various kinds. You had a sport that was really the way so many families were fed.
Now you take lots of photos. You take photos of flowers, insects, nature photos, and you share those. You have quite an online presence in social media. How does that fit in with your take on life and how you communicate with other folks who enjoy nature?
Well, it's been my main goal for the last several years, as you say, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that, and shall I say, get away with it, to be too old to have to work, but too young to give up trying to do many things that are useful. Like, well, this station is partly underwritten, or whatever we call it, by Omni Center for Peace, Justice, and Ecology. That's been a membership I've had since it was almost brand new. And I'm on the board of the Regional National Cemetery Improvement Corporation. Been on that for a decade, I think, now. And the Partners for Better Housing is one I'm on right now still, and that's to build hopefully reasonably priced homes, although it gets more difficult to meet those goals. And the telecommunication board I've been on off and on now for over a decade.
That's a city board.
City board with the TV stations. Both the
city and the public
access. Yes, public access. And that's a committee I enjoy being on. It's changed over the years. And then the Environmental Action Committee, and I can't quite name them all in one city maybe think of, because they're just things that need to be supported. And some people can support them with money, some can support them by being activists to some degree and helping with them.
Yeah. Well, Aubrey, I certainly appreciate your coming in and visiting with me. I appreciate all the work you do with the organizations and city councils, and thank you for being on Fayetteville Focus.
Well, thank you for having me here. I enjoyed it.
You are listening to KPSQ LP in Fayetteville. This is Fayetteville Focus. Dick Bennett is the founder of the Omni Center for Peace, Justice, and Ecology. The Omni Center is the license holder for KPSQ LP radio station. We thank Dick for his involvement and foresight in setting up that organization. This morning, Dick shares another in a series of editorials. with us.
My preceding two editorials discussed the successful two crucial decades of denial and warming by the fossil fuel companies and made a case for replacing profit-first U.S. capitalism with an economic system for all the people. My present editorial gives more specific substance to the resistance to the system. My chief reference is Naomi Klein's book, No Is Not Enough. Corporations and their government supporters sought to lay a pipeline for the dirtiest oil from Alberta, Canada, across North Dakota to Houston refineries, its destination, China. They met BDS resistance all the way, boycott, divestment, sanctions, by people who knew that more fossil fuels ensured that global temperatures would rise beyond safe levels. The people created blockades to stop the despoilers. The resistors needed help. President Obama finally denied the pipeline permit. Resistors had been successful, saying no to an imminent threat while working tirelessly to build the yes for the world we want and need. But then Donald Trump became president and began dismantling and reversing against the planets more ferociously than had President Bush. One achievement of the struggle to stop the oil pipeline was its clarification of the system behind the outrage. The struggle had inspired awareness among the people. Ecocidal capitalism laid the pipeline over the Oglala Aquifer, under the native reservation, and through the Missouri River. Racism, white supremacy, made it possible to treat indigenous water and climate protectors with water cannons in freezing weather. People were seeing and speaking out about the connections that the economic interests pushing hardest for war at home and abroad are the very same forces most responsible for warming the planet, and that the economic precariousness that most people were feeling flowed from the same place, a corrosive value system that places profit above the well-being of people and the planet. The same system has allowed the pursuit of money to so corrode the political process in the United States that a gang of scandal-plagued plutocrats could seize control of the White House. The limitless taking and extracting, the maximum grabbing from workers, the less job security, the lower wages, community resources taken away, and workers laid off. Did you see the headline January 9? UAMS slashing 600 jobs to curb deficit. This is what a system addicted to short-term profits and wealth does. It treats people, the earth, and the atmosphere like resources to be mined to their limits. In contrast, when people speak about the world they want, the words are care and caretaking, care for the land, care for the planet's living systems, care for one another, a system in which everyone is valued, and we don't treat people of the natural world as if they were disposable. Out of these experience connections arose a vision of cooperation for the well-being of all, in Canada called the Leap. The world people want and need would create unionized jobs and deliver justice. Green jobs would become anything useful and enriching without fossil fuels. Nursing, teaching were renewable energy. The goal was to transform an economy of destruction into an economy of love for the rebirth of humanity. The result is the LEAP Manifesto, a call for a Canada based on caring for the earth and one another. Even more urgently, it is a call to the United States. For decades, ruling elites around the world have been using the power of shock to impose nightmares. Donald Trump thinks he'll be able to do it again and again, that we will have forgotten by tomorrow what he said yesterday, which he will say he never said. But we can build a movement of resistance and hope and justice and love. The corporate coup described by Naomi Klein in No Is Not Enough, and hundreds of books and articles and films and speeches, is a crisis with global reverberations that could echo through geologic time. As Santee Dakota artist and poet John Trudell said, "I'm not looking to overthrow the American government. The corporate state already has. How we respond to the crisis is up to us. So let's leap to the call for the United States to care for the earth and one another."
This is Fayetteville Focus on KPSQ LP, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Thank you for listening. As we approach the top of the hour, listen to a song composed specifically for a string quintet made of 2 violins, a viola, a cello, and a banjo. I heard this piece performed a couple of nights ago in the Walton Arts Center by Bella Fleck and